Welcome to the Peanut Gallery, our third edition. And tonight, my guest is Bill Johnson, a Blackford High School graduate, and Steele Johnson, a 2016 silver medalist in the Olympics. Welcome, both of you, this evening.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Steele, it's been a very different start to 2020 for you. You had planned on being in the 2020 Olympics, and just talk a little bit about, let's get started with what you've had to do, what you've been able to do, what limitations you've had, and where you're going to go as far as going forward.
Yeah, the past few months of training has definitely taken a turn, with the Olympics just getting postponed a year. We were in peak training leading up, starting in March and April and May. It was supposed to be the peak training months leading into the Olympic trials in June, ultimately leading to the Olympics in July. And so for the past 4 years, as much as I could be, I've been full steam ahead, especially when 2020 started. I had a big schedule coming up. I was qualified to go to the World Cup in April in Tokyo, and that got canceled. I did end up going to Spain and Canada right before this whole outbreak began. It was in the beginning stages, but nothing was getting shut down yet, so we were still competing. And when I got home from Canada, that's when everything shut down. Our pool was closed for training. There were no more competitions for the rest of the year. And so we had to take a step back and reevaluate, okay, what is it going to look like to continue training now that we know we have over a year until the Olympics instead of just a couple months? And so that's taken a lot of mental preparation. That's been physically difficult because you aren't able to go into the pool. Diving is such a specific sport where you need a 10-meter platform, you need a big pool, you need a nice facility. It's not like a sport like cross country where you can still socially distant run. You can be outside away from people and still train your sport. There might be some adjustments with some of those sports, but for diving, it's a complete adjustment. We couldn't go to the weight room. We couldn't do dry land. Some divers have big enough homes where they could do flips and they had mats and stuff. I didn't. So I was just doing body weight workouts the past few months in my small apartment. So it's been definitely a change. It's been a challenge, but ultimately I'm thankful that right now it is scheduled for next year. It gives us a timeline of this is how long we have to train, and it allows me to get another year of training under my belt leading into Tokyo. I felt like I was going to be really ready for this Olympics this year, but given an extra year and a half of training, I will be that much more prepared come the Olympics next year.
Well, and I think also an extra kink into your situation, you're a synchronized diver, so you have a partner. How has that made things more difficult?
I think it's just kind of been the same as the normal training, because when I train with my synchro partner, we train together every day. And when we're not training at all, we're not able to train together. Luckily, we've been doing synchro for so many years and we've been teammates for such a long time that a lot of the stuff we do is subconscious and it's natural. And, when we get back into it, it's going to be natural, because over 2018 and 2019, I had 2 foot surgeries and I was out for 8 months. But at the end of that, we were able to step right back into synchro, and, there wasn't much of a hiccup. We were able to get back to where we needed to be really quickly. And so that's what I'm hoping is going to happen going forward, seeing as this break right now is shorter than my break from surgeries.
Are you still diving with David?
Yeah.
Okay. So, in how many years have you guys been competing together?
We started competing synchro in 2014. So this will be our 6th year. And then when the Olympics roll around, it'll be 7 years of doing synchro together.
Okay. Bill, what kind of challenges did this offer you? Had you guys intended on going to watch Steele as you did in 2016?
We really hadn't thought too much about this. This whole situation leading up to this part of Steele's life and the Olympic cycle was so much different than the previous time. In 2016 and the years leading up to it, it basically consumed our family and Jill and I, and we were always thinking about, because it was exciting, it's new, having your boy go have an opportunity to go to the Olympics. It was quite consuming back then. Now, hey, he's been there, he's done it. We have high expectations for him. We're disappointed, but that it's not going to happen now. But this is life. These things happen in life, and you have to roll with them. Still looks like he's handling it pretty well. So
That's the main thing, right?
yes, but I have been trained. I have. I was anticipating, of course, the Olympic trials to be in June, and in January this year, I was looking at some old videos of interviews that NBC did with me, and I just was startled how fat I was, or I looked how fat I looked. So I started getting ready for the Olympic trials. I've been on this diet, and I've lost 26 pounds since middle of February. So I'm ready.
Congratulations. Yeah, you're ready. Steele, as far as, preparing for next year, mentally, what are your expectations? I know your goals are probably high. And then also, how do you handle this and what you do going forward if something happens and this does get canceled next year?
I think to answer the first part, my expectations, they're going to stay the same as they were this year. This year, I felt ready. I felt prepared. And I felt like I was in a good spot to put my best foot forward and hopefully end up back on the podium, not just in synchro, but also in individual as well. And now that I've got an extra year to train, I think that, that expectation should be the same and can be the same. I do still believe that with another year of training, I could end up on the podium again in synchro and in individual. And, if unfortunately the Olympics don't happen for some reason next year, I really don't know what to expect when that comes. That's something I'm going to try not to focus too hard on right now, because what we know right now is that they're planned to happen. So I'm going to train as hard as I can as if they're happening next year. And, some athletes might not. Some athletes might be training right now thinking it might not happen. And those athletes are losing precious time to be training and build a good foundation a year out. And I don't want to fall in the camp that isn't building a good foundation a year out.
Well, back in 2016, obviously you had a lot of people from Indiana and around the country, obviously following your progress and your accomplishments. Talk a little bit about what it was like, just being a part of that the first time, the opening ceremonies. Just how did you take that all in, and how do you think those experiences will benefit you going forward?
Well, the first Olympics is definitely an experience to remember. You train so long for this exciting event where 10,000 of the best athletes in the world are all in one country competing for the same thing. And to be a part of that group of one of the best athletes in the world in 2016 is truly an honor. And it really is just a cool, diverse group to, be with for the month to 2 months that you're at the Olympics, whether it's in Brazil or Tokyo, wherever it may be. It is really cool to meet the other athletes, not just from the United States, but from all the other countries, not just in your sport, but from all the other sports, and really get to see how different we all are, but how we can all come together with the same goal. It was a cool experience, one I definitely want to experience again. But yeah, I feel like that was just pivotal in shaping how I go about connecting with other people.
Stepping up on that podium, getting your silver medal, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
This thing is heavy. I think that was the first thing that every medalist talked about from Rio is the medals from Rio were significantly heavier than the medals from London. When we got back to the village, David had his other gold medal and his bronze from London with him. And so we were just comparing the medals, and the Rio ones were just like so dense and so heavy.
And Bill, obviously we all got to see you from back home and around the world. Just the passion and the enthusiasm you and your family showed watching Steele. What was that like, watching your son and seeing him get that silver medal?
Well, it's a 10-year process. When he started diving, and they told us earlier on that he had a chance to be really, really good at this. So the several years it took to get there. It was exciting when he made the team, being fortunate to be in Indianapolis and be surrounded by a lot of his friends and our family. That was such a special time for us all. Going to the Olympics and then watching him do what he did, you know, you can't really describe it, how to, you know, your son, you've watched him for 10 years work very, very hard, prepare, spend all those years preparing for this moment. And then when the time came, he was ready. I don't know if Dad was, but and it was so exciting. As each dive, they were always in second place. And then after the fifth dive, and I realized that he was going to win a medal, not sure what, but probably a silver. A lot of things that was going through my mind, especially when I was thinking about a lot when I fell in love with the Olympics, the 1972 Olympics. And I was thinking about how that moment when I was so enthralled with the Olympics, because I'd never seen anything like this before. I was just used to basketball, football, baseball. That's about it. I was not aware that there were sports like track and field or gymnastics or wrestling or weightlifting. I mean, I was just totally consumed with the 72 Olympics. And that's what I was thinking about, you know, when I was a 13-year-old boy watching that. And then here my son was able to, on his first event ever in the Olympics, there was only 550 of them on the team. I felt pretty proud to be that boy's father. Simply also because I've just watched him over the years work so hard and so dedicated to it, always willing to prepare months and years with no competitions, but he still did it. You know, he never got up one day all those years when he said, I don't feel like practicing today. I never heard that from him one time. Sure, there was days he was sick, but for me, you know, I just wanted to play. I didn't want to prepare. But Steele spent 8 long years preparing, and he was ready when the time came.
Steele, was the last time you were actually able to get into a pool, was it at Purdue, and I assume February, March this year?
Yeah, so the last time I got in the water was towards the beginning of March. So I'm trying to think, it was at the end of February. I went to Madrid. We had a competition there. I was home for a few days, and then I went off to Canada. We were in Montreal, and I competed there, came home, trained for maybe 2 days after that trip, and then we were out of the water. So it's been 3 months, if not more.
Have they given you any projections as to when they think you might be able to get back into the training facilities?
I mean, it's all up in the air, because obviously every state is different, but also you got to factor in that the NCAA has different rules. And since I train at a college that's under the NCAA, you got to follow those rules as well as the state rules. And the Big Ten has their own rules as well. Along with that, Purdue is enforcing their own rules as well, because everyone wants to be safe. Everyone wants to be smart. And, you know, at the end of the day, we got to honor that. I'm here to honor that, do my part. And, you know, for the time being, we don't know when things are going to happen. There are like up in the air dates that have all been moved back as those approach. So I'm just keeping it open right now.
And I've heard you talking about not only diving with David Bedaya on the Synchronized, but you're going to be competing possibly as an individual as well. How has that affected your training? Obviously, it's been a little bit different comparing for more than just one event.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be the same as it was, you know, over my entire career so far. Along with competing synchro, I've always competed individual too. When I went to the Olympics, I competed 10-meter synchro and 10-meter individual. And going forward, I want to be competing synchro and individual again. And so we train our individual dives, but when we train synchro, that's also training our individual dives because we do the same dives in both events.
Okay. As far as projections, have they talked about anywhere? Do you know where you might be ranked going into the Olympics? You know, where did you see yourself falling going into Tokyo if you would have been there getting ready?
I mean, you can only really base it off the most previous meets that you do. I think FINA has some ranking system that they do, but it's based off who does what event and how many events they win. But in diving, a lot of people specialize in one event, usually one or two. And so those rankings can get all over the place. But in Spain, I won an individual bronze medal on 3-meter. And then David and I won a silver medal in 3-meter synchro there. And then in Canada, I dove with a different partner because David was sick, and we ended up getting, I think, 5th place. So we're in the mix. We're in the mix of the medals, and it could be anyone's game on any day.
Well, Bill, how has this time period been different for you with COVID setting in and kind of shutting everything down?
It hasn't affected me at all. As a real estate appraiser, I guess I'm called essential personnel. And right before all this started, the interest rates already had dropped real low. Then once COVID kicked in, it went to nothing. So I've been working 7 days a week. Couldn't go to church, so I just might as well work. So these last 4 months have gone by pretty quickly for me because I've just been working nonstop. So I'm kind of the fortunate one where as my wife has been climbing the walls around here because she really didn't go anywhere. And, she watched me going out and continue to live my life like I normally do, working all the time. So it's not really impacted me any at all. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Steele, one final thought here. How have your family and their support, how has that impacted you through all this? And then also your friendship with David?
It's been good. You can't do this journey alone. So you need people backing you. You need people supporting you, driving you to practice when you don't have a driver's license. And, my dad would drop me off at a gas station early in the morning, and David would pick me up and take me downtown and then drop me back off. And my dad would come pick me back up. And even when I moved to Purdue, the first month I was at Purdue, I didn't have a driver's license. So my parents were driving me all the way to Purdue, hanging out there, doing their work online, and then picking me up and taking me home. And so, you can't do that alone. And so I'm grateful for the ways they supported me and took care of me. And, it just makes the moment special when you get to share that with everyone and not just by yourself.
Well, I know I speak for a lot of people in wishing you well and hoping that things get back to as normal is going to be for a while. And I'm sure I will not be the only one on the edge of my seat cheering for you a year from now when you're in Tokyo. And if Bill, if you're there, I'm sure we'll all be anxious to see your reactions and just that love and enthusiasm that definitely came across when we saw you 4 years ago.
Well, it's been special, not only for Steele, for race. Both my boys have been entertaining. I've been entertained being their father. I mean, they both excelled and done the best they could, and it was so much fun to be around them. And one thought about Steele, that there was many days when he's talking about driving him down there, I was looking over at him and thinking, what am I doing? Is this worth everything that we're doing? This was like when he's 14 or 15, but I just kept watching him do what he did every day and never complain and never say he didn't want to do it. So if he can keep doing it, then I can keep doing it. It all worked out. But I tell you, this is not easy. But when you had a kid like Steele, who I admire him because of his willingness to prepare. But he's been a fun kid to be dad to, and I'm just looking forward to his future.
And I know I did some interviews with you for newspaper. You took your time out, and the boosters brought you to Blackford, and you did a little exhibition. I think he's done that twice, if I'm not mistaken. So I know you're a very giving young man and very deserving of everything that you've earned. And again, I just wish you well, and especially over the next few months when everybody tries to get back to norm. And Bill, it's always great talking to you. I'm sure I'll continue to do that as we go forward. And I just appreciate you both coming on today. And I'm sure some people back home are looking forward to seeing this. So as I always do, we'll say Peanut Gallery signing off.